the road to justice, India's fight against terrorism, and also, of course, US-India cooperation when it comes to intel sharing and several other matters. But Professor Singh, comment on the fact that how big a closure this would be for the victims of 26/11.
I think it's an important result of a very patient and proactive pursuit that India has had on this issue, in this case with the United States, starting from 2010, of course, then in 2019, December, the formal diplomatic note being submitted, June 2020, a formal request for arrest being submitted again, and February, when the Prime Minister of India, along with President Trump, were addressing the joint press conference, they mentioned that Tahaawwur Rana would soon be returning to India. Now, significance of Rana coming back to India is to connect and elucidate and expose, in that sense, the links that Pakistani ISI has, Lashkar-e-Taiba has, which is the breeding ground of constant trouble for India in terms of terrorism being used as instrument of foreign policy. So how to expose that link? I think Tahaawwur Rana would be a very interesting bundle of new information in that sense that could come out and deal with that subject. And again, as you mentioned, this is also an important signal to several fugitives and criminals. In December last year, the Ministry of Home Affairs, replying in Parliament, had mentioned that India has made 178 such requests around the world. And some of them are relatively more active, some of them are more dangerous, some of them are in developed world, and some of them are in United States. And this would also then send a signal how India's persistent and proactive approach can finally deliver.
Indeed.
And I think in that sense, it's a message not just for United States, but also all the fugitives that have left India and will be brought to justice.
Indeed. And which brings me to weigh in on that since then, how do you see now the picture changing, and how much will that be in terms of a robust mechanism against terrorism for India?
I think other than fragmented intelligence that Dr. Tarak just mentioned, it's also important to understand the due process of law. And if you study the extradition treaty between India and United States signed in 1997, there are several legal loopholes that continue to be hurdles in the process like this. For example, in 2010, David Coleman was investigated by NIA in United States, interrogated, but even at that time, Rana was not made available. So there are legal hurdles that one has to patiently, cross over a period of time. And I think that shows that persistent effort on this issue by India has finally resulted in something which I would call a kind of a clincher for India, that he's been brought to India is a very significant source of information and exposing links with Pakistan in that sense. India has had a whole network of, India has similar extradition treaties with 48 other countries, similar extradition arrangements with additional 12 countries. So it's not just, it's a very significant step forward, but it's part of a larger network of the things that India has built over decades and initiatives that India is taking, in that sense, in long-term dealing with a fundamental problem of terrorism, which undermines India's security, and focus on the breeding ground Pakistan. And that makes Rana's arrival here very, very critical for us.
Indeed, and I think that is where the focus will be, because they found